about now.
So certain.
My favorite moment from my favorite Star Wars movie is the scene in The Empire Strikes Back where Yoda teaches Luke about the nature of the Force. At this point, Luke has failed to retrieve his X-Wing, and Yoda tries to explain why, right? But he does it by explaining the mysterious power of the Force. He says,
Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
and then Yoda goes on to give his eloquent treatise on understanding and working with this power.
You must feel the force around you. Here, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere. Yes.
My boyhood self might simply have described it as cool, but it was more than that. Because as I watched Luke learn the ways of the Force, I felt a sincere reverence. I wasn't exactly a reverent kid, but I felt a sincere reverence for the mystery of this world. And a strange curiosity. And I began to wonder if I could possibly find such a mysterious force in my universe, and I wondered if I, like Luke, could learn to participate in this power's good and noble purpose. It changed what I was, what I wanted to be, and what I would become. Disney purchases the right to Star Wars, and with these rights it becomes the technical owner of the property. And heritage, legacy, universe, characters, and stories. Star Wars was now a Disney brand. And with ownership of the Star Wars brand, Disney also bought an enormous fan base, with deep-rooted emotional ties and a history of financial loyalty. Mega fanboys and fangirls who dress in cosplay and write fan fiction and camp outside to all hours of the night. I think we can safely say that the Star Wars mythos, was enormously defined by its fan base. That it evolved through the minds of its fan base. And that is a fascinating and beautiful idea, kind of like a sci-fi ecosystem of ideas inspired by the original Star Wars universe. So then Disney made The Force Awakens to what I recall as mixed reviews. The movie did a passable job as a nostalgic tribute to the original, but I didn't feel any spark or magic, and it certainly didn't leave a deep impression on me. Sorry, what movie were we just talking about? Then we arrive at The Last Jedi, or then and now we arrive at The Last Jedi. What some traditional fans may have feared when Disney bought Star Wars was a frustrating commercialization of the beloved universe, which never lives up to the original shore. But what they got in The Last Jedi was that and much more. Much more than a good or bad movie. Instead of making a movie logically following The Force Awakens, Disney and its directors, Rian Johnson, made a bizarre piece of propaganda which seemed to ignore logical next steps of a sequel and concern itself above all with being some sort of bizarre intentional insult to the Star Wars fan base and their values. This propaganda is the opposite of subtle, as it implies an obnoxious political message which is the opposite of the noble spirit of Star Wars. It pretends to be a modern spin on the legend, but it lacks all genuine nobility. The movie's media touts the shield of representation as its virtue, but the movie itself just uses representation as a cover to play out sociopathic revenge fantasies. Watching the movie, you get the sense that the director and writers are using cinematic language to tell the original fans, "We don't like you, go away." The notorious scene of Luke drinking milk is played as humor and argued to be ficto-historically relevant to the story, but none of this negates it, or negates the insult. Rian Johnson and the Star Wars cast publicly refer to the fan base as man-babies. How better to troll them than by having their hero slurp down space cow milk directly from the gross teat of the mooing creature? And if you know the scene, if you remember the scene, but who could forget it? How come he didn't share with Rey? So then we get to this big question. Why would Disney executives allow anything, even close to antagonism, to develop between their new mega franchise and their fan base? Why would the Disney brand allow something to be created which is hostile to the paying customer? Some who think about it say that the executives are stupid, but high-paid executives are known for greed, not stupidity. Some say Disney is out of touch with the fan base. But isn't it hard to believe that they are so out of touch? All the money that they have to sink into marketing and research gave them nothing? The truth is that none of these usual sort of culprits make sense. And what does make sense was confirmed by the public behavior of the creators, of people like Kathleen Kennedy and Ruin Johnson, as well as a lot of shady behavior from a lot of the stars. Not to name names, but
always win.
The Last Jedi is a belligerent act of social engineering which is ultimately endorsed by representatives of Disney. Besides being propaganda which aims to divide viewers, they ran a disgusting social media campaign which replied to criticism by claiming stuff like, the fan base hates women and people of color. The fan base is immature and just can't handle how the story changed. This one, let me just say, being a silly argument for people who want virtue points and think they may just sound smart by saying a term like subverted expectations. Durr.
We will always win.
As a child watching Star Wars, it made a deep impression on me. It gifted me an experience that could never be corrupted. I still believe we are luminous beings. What worries me is that Disney is making a new Star Wars movie with stories that explicitly dismiss and disrespect the type of experience I had and the story that inspired it. They are literally telling impressionable young viewers,
just writing the script, forget the past, kill it if you have to. And you're doing a pretty good job.
I'm trying.
Instead of learning about the Force, these viewers are told it's time
For the Jedi.
aka our heroic ideals. These the things we want our children to learn and be influenced by? The same way I was influenced? In the end, I won't and I can't watch episode 9. They hate the values I love, and they hate me for loving those values. And they seem to be something like literal dark side users. How could I ever support them? We are the resistance.
Here. Between you, me,
This is what is the Matrix.
the rock.
Praying that the
Everywhere.
Force be with you.
Yes. Even between the land and the ship.